Hey guys, what's up? This is Luke with Think Boxley coming at you today with a look at Windows 10, the technical preview. Been spending time with Windows 10 over the past week or so since Microsoft first released it and sending Microsoft my feedback, and now I'll be sharing some of that feedback with all of you as well. First off, notice that this is a technical preview, not a developer preview like we saw previously with Windows 8. Microsoft is really focusing on making Windows 10 a consumer and business platform this time around, now that they've kind of laid the foundation with Windows 8 and developers are used to developing for the Windows Store. They really have brought the focus around to where it really needed to be all along on the end consumer and the business world. Those are the areas where Windows 8 is really struggling, and Microsoft realizes that and really wants to make Windows 10 the consumer and business operating system to go to. If you are interested in trying this out for yourself, you can do so by heading on over to insider.windows.com. It's very easy to sign up and download your own copy of the technical preview for Windows 10. You can see, just hit this big purple Join Now button and you'll log in with your Microsoft account. If you already have Windows 8, or if you've ever used something like SkyDrive, then you already have one of these, so very easy to join the Windows Insider program and get access to that, which you can then use to play around with Windows 10 for yourself. Now, if all that seems a little bit more advanced than you'd like to mess with, or if you just don't want to go through the trouble of using an experimental operating system on your computer, then you can get a little taste of it through me and my experiences. So the first big thing, the elephant of elephants in the room, is the Start menu has returned. This is pretty much like what you'd expect if you use Windows 7. So you can see on the side you've got your familiar search and then your All Apps menu, your recently used apps, any pinned apps that you may have chosen. You've got your shutdown, you've got your user. Pretty much everything that you would expect from Windows 7's Start menu is back, and with a vengeance. If I go to the All Apps here, you can see that Windows 8 apps are now merged in with regular apps. They can be pinned to the Start menu, just like regular shortcuts. So we have our music and our news and all that right alongside other regular applications like Firefox or anything else like that. But of course, it's more than just the Windows 7 Start menu. Obviously, Microsoft is trying to kind of give the best of both worlds here and giving us a set of live tiles that we can pin onto the side of the new Start menu. So if you do like the Windows 8 aesthetic, but you would also like a Windows 7 Start menu, you can have both, and you can even customize it a fair amount. As you can see, if I drag up and down here from the top, it actually goes ahead and resizes along a grid pretty intelligently to rearrange my live tiles, and even on the side you can see it went ahead and hid certain features that don't fit in this arrangement. So it's actually overall a pretty smart way to organize all of your new Windows live tiles as well as your old Windows 7 and previous icons. And it would be interesting also because you could basically turn this into a start screen if you wanted to. If I made this as large as it can go, it almost reaches the top of the screen, and then conceivably you could put in enough live tiles to make this spread pretty much all the way across the screen, and then you'd essentially have your start menu, or your start screen, that is, back how it was in Windows 8. However, you don't have to use a workaround like that. You can actually get the real thing. If I just right click on a blank area here, you'll see we have a couple options. First of all is personalize, and this is just your standard Windows 8 color picker. Nothing really new there. Hopefully Microsoft will put in some Start menu specific personalization options in the future, but for now that's all we've got. But the other thing that is really worth paying attention to is this properties. Over here in the Start menu tab, you'll see there's now a checkbox that says use the Start menu instead of the Start screen. Currently that is checked, and that is checked by default for anyone who installs Windows 10. I'm sure this will be the case for the final consumer release. But if I uncheck this box and hit apply or OK, it'll ask me to sign out and change my settings, which I'm not going to do right now. But if I was to do that, then I'd sign back in and be greeted by the familiar Windows 8 Start screen. Absolutely no changes at this point. It's exactly the same as Windows 8. So if you were one of those people that actually liked the Start screen, which actually I am one of those people, then you can have it back, which is maybe good news. Otherwise, you can just stick with the Start menu and use live tiles if you like, or don't use them. They're completely optional at this point, so that's about all there is to that. Also, joining the Start menu button down here at the bottom of the taskbar, we also have a dedicated search button and the new task view. First of all, we have the search button which currently is kind of duplicate, it seems, of the Start menu's own search function. So we have the Search Everywhere bar down here that will return files on your computer, programs, applications, all that good stuff, and even suggest keywords for doing web searches. This pretty much does the same thing. As you can see, it has a couple trending topics here on the right with some nice thumbnails, but maybe kind of hard to see why Microsoft has done this at this point, since they already have a very capable search function. There actually is a reason for this, and it's something that Microsoft is obviously not ready to go public with yet, but it actually is within Windows 10, just kind of hidden away. You can see I have this in my frequent folders list in the new home area of the Explorer. And this is, as you can see along the top, Microsoft.Cortana underscore 1.2.0.0 64-bit blah blah blah. So this is Cortana, which, as you probably know, is the assistant, the digital assistant for Windows Phone. Microsoft has been very clear, stating their intentions that Windows 10 is also going to be the next main version of Windows Phone. There's going to be complete operating system parity between all devices that Microsoft is putting out and will put out in the future. So Cortana is obviously a big deal because they've just really gotten that into the Windows Phone ecosystem. It's not going to go away, of course, so that means by implication it's coming to PCs as well, and through Windows 10. It's going to be on every Windows 10 device. So Cortana is here. There's no way to execute it at this point. Microsoft has not enabled this function in Windows 10 yet, but presumably Cortana will eventually be going, my mistake, or eventually Cortana will be going right here somewhere in this dedicated search menu, which would make more sense. That would give it something set apart from the Start menu's own little search function, which is generally going to be suited more for text searching, whereas Cortana is a digital assistant, meaning it can do more than just search. This would kind of be your area for making notifications to yourself, or calendar events, things like that. Anything you could do with a digital assistant like Siri or Google Now or Cortana, you could do here, presumably. We don't know for sure exactly how Cortana is going to be implemented yet, but it's very clear that it is here. If you want to snoop around the files yourself, then this Windows Apps folder under Program Files is what you're going to want to take advantage of. You'll have to gain permissions for that yourself. That's beyond the scope of this video, but if you are an expert at computers, which Microsoft says you should be if you're using the Windows 10 technical preview in the first place, you should have no trouble gaining access to the Windows Apps folder and snooping around the files for Cortana. Now there is this other button here which I accidentally switched to a little bit ago, which is the Task View button. Now you might think this is the same thing as Alt-Tab, which by the way looks very nice. You can see with Alt-Tab I have all my applications. There's very large thumbnails this time, and if I was, say, having a YouTube video running in these, that would be animated. So these are true live previews of Windows, which is really great. Can minimize this, but there's actually more to the task view than just switching between windows. This actually adds the other dynamic of additional desktops. So you can see I have already created this secondary desktop. I could create a third one, or however many. I'm not sure exactly what the limit is for this, but it's very easy. You just hit the plus button and there you have another desktop. You can close that one off when you're finished with it. I've already created this second one, which you can see has a notepad window with the classic hello world written in it. And you can see down here, when I am currently on my second desktop, I can still see that I have a window open in Firefox and a window open in my libraries. It just shows this kind of line down at the bottom of the icons. So I can't say I'm too fond of that solution. It looks like it was thrown together pretty quickly. So I imagine Microsoft will come up with something better than that for the consumer release, but for the technical preview purposes, this is good enough to show you just that there are other windows open. And likewise with Notepad, if I switch back to the other desktop, you see now Notepad has a line across the bottom. And this is not pinned to the taskbar, by the way. But you can see currently it stays there even though it's not on this desktop, just to show that it is open elsewhere in another desktop. So I'm a big fan of this feature. I have been ever since Linux started popularizing this, however much Linux popularizes anything. Some might say that Linux is kind of a niche market, but actually Windows 10 is kind of bringing a lot of the Linux ecosystem and the Linux ideal into Windows, which is really interesting, really unexpected from Microsoft, but very interested to see how that turns out. I'm very, very glad to have this multiple desktops feature. It's something that at first you might think, why would I need that? And before long you'll be like, how do I live without this? So definitely glad that is coming to Windows 10. Excited to see how Microsoft improves it in the future. Now, if there is anything when you're using Windows 10 Technical Preview that you look at that you think, that could be done better, or I really like this and I want to let Microsoft know, or this totally didn't work for me and Microsoft needs to get this fixed ASAP, then you can do that through an app called Windows Feedback. Now, I was really not expecting much about this, but as you can see when it pops up here in this window, yes, it's not a full screen, although I can make it a full screen app by going to this contextual commands area and hitting full screen. Then it's just like Windows 8, but it is running in the desktop, and I can snap it to either side, and if I do so, it'll suggest how to fill the space. So little tertiary features of Windows 10 showing up here in practical usage as I go along with kind of this overview. See, I want to pop up Cortana and that half the screen, I can do that, or I can just make this fill the screen like that. You can see this is actually a lot more than just a simple like the error reports that we've seen in previous versions of Windows, where it sends off some logged somebody that you don't even know if they're ever going to see it or respond to it or anything like that. This is kind of like a mini social thing right inside Windows 10. As you can see, we have all these different areas that we can browse through to see where our suggestion or our issue lies. Say I want to say something about the search, I can go here and go into Windows Search, and then you can see it's going to call up all the feedback that people have given about Windows Search. And if you have your own feedback that isn't already here, then you can go ahead and hit New Feedback down here at the bottom and add your feedback, however detailed or not detailed you want to be. As you can see, some of these are very simple, others are a little bit longer, but the real cool thing about this is this number here on the side. As you can see, 319. Well, what's that 319? Well, if I click on this, you can see there's this Me Too button. And if I sympathize with this feedback, if I agree with it, if I have the same problem that it describes, I can hit this Me Too, which is kind of like the upvote that you'd see on social networks, the like button of Facebook, the +1 of Google+, all those things. You can hit Me Too and it will sort of upvote this feedback. And that means that it really helps Microsoft see what is the most important to people and what is the best feedback out there. So it really will help them to make Windows 10 better, faster, and with a more streamlined production. Help them see things that need to be seen, things like that. So it's actually a pretty good system. I was impressed. I wasn't expecting much out of the Windows Feedback application, but I'm definitely impressed with this. Happy to see, and I've been doing my best to leave feedback. As you go about using Windows 10, in fact, for the first time, you use certain features, it'll pop up a notification asking you your feelings about it, and you can rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, leave feedback, let other people vote on that feedback, things like that. So this is definitely very heavily oriented towards Microsoft actually doing things about this feedback. That's the critical point of this app, is that it focuses on Microsoft actually listening, Microsoft actually doing something about it. And already in the updates for the technical preview, we've seen things, some of the features that people have requested here and that have gotten upvoted. We've already seen some of those things be implemented inside the technical preview, which is great. So this is definitely a Microsoft unlike we've ever seen before. Never before has there been an edition of Windows built this way, this open, this receptive. This is going to be the consumer's version of Windows, and this app is what's going to make that happen. So it's not terribly fancy, but it serves its purpose in a really big way. So I was definitely very happy to see that. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot here yet that is really different from Windows 8. The Charms bar, actually, there was some debate over whether this was going to go or if it was going to stay. It actually is still here. It's not currently working. You're supposed to be able to move the mouse into the corner and have it pop up like always. It doesn't, but you can of course still hit the Windows key and C and pop up the Charms bar and see that it is still here. It's exactly like Windows 8, absolutely nothing new about this yet, but I would like to see Microsoft utilize this in Windows 10 because I think it has a lot of potential. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Maybe we'll have Cortana built into the sidebar here, the Charms bar. Maybe we'll have better notifications included in the Charms bar, who knows, but I think the Charms bar should definitely be utilized. I like that feature, and I'm glad to see that it is still there. Also for touch users, the on-screen keyboard has been improved a little bit. You can see there's more options for the different keyboard, and we can hide it that way. But also what's interesting is now we have this little area here where we can drag the keyboard around. So if it's in our way anywhere on the screen, we can just move it out of the way and keep typing. So that's kind of neat. So Microsoft still has a ways to go to realize their vision for Windows 10, but they are certainly off to a pleasantly surprisingly good start. And their openness to feedback is an uncharacteristically good change from the past that will hopefully push development of Windows 10 in the right direction. So very excited to see where Windows 10 goes. It was a surprise to pretty much everyone to hear it be Windows 10 in the first place, and to really hear the direction that Microsoft is taking it in. I was kind of skeptical about it at first, but actually I have to say, after playing around with it myself, trying it out, seeing how the start menu actually works in real world scenarios and things like that, I'm a lot happier with where this is going than I thought I would be. So that's a good sign, for me at least. Hopefully, as time goes on and this improves and more people are able to try it out, it will become more and more the operating system that everybody wants. Microsoft has said that this will be the last major iteration of Windows that's released like this. Moving on, it will be kind of more frequent, more incremental updates like we've seen pretty much every other operating system switch to. macOS, Android, Linux, everything kind of operates on this model. Microsoft is the last to hold out from switching this model, so they're finally joining the club. Unix is kind of dominating the world in every other sphere, so it's interesting to see how Microsoft is kind of the last thing out there that's not Unix, and yet now they're kind of taking the ideals of Unix and putting it into Windows, which is something that I've advocated actually for a long time now. Never expected to actually see become a reality. So I definitely hope to see Microsoft continue down this current path of openness, and including the features that people specifically want. Very interested to see the future. So that's Windows 10, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.